Fine, here's your video. I have to tell you something. In OMORI's good ending, Sunny confronts his fears and unveils the truth behind a certain fateful day and what actually happened to Mari. Realizing the danger Basil's now in, he attempts to save his life, but not before fear overwhelms him and he succumbs to his injuries. Having reconciled with his past and aspirations of a better life, Sunny finally takes it upon himself to confront his inner demons, and succeeds. Armed with his newfound courage, Sunny finally admits the truth to his friends. Before we can see their reactions, the game promptly ends, leaving fans wondering as to what would happen next. Would Sunny and Basil be forgiven? Fans debate this question to this day, as we may never know.
This is the most obnoxious thing I've ever experienced in my life.
What I just recited was an abridged version of the popular consensus regarding this game's ending. That OMORI ends ambiguously, that we don't know how Sunny's friends would react, and it's left open to player interpretation. Unfortunately, none of that is correct.
It's false.
In this coming Christmas, OMORI will have reached its 5-year anniversary. That's half a decade old.
It's been that long?
So, take this video as my celebratory and farewell gift, as this may be the last video I make on this game. And if there's one thing OMORI fans seem to want more than anything else, it's closure. The good ending ends in the manner that it does for a specific reason, and yet, you just can't help but wonder what would happen next, especially after such a riveting experience. But is it not high time we stop pretending that an answer doesn't exist?
You need to hang up that computer call.
And that we should realize that people have simply convinced themselves that OMORI ends with a cliffhanger, even though it clearly doesn't? Amidst all the social media posts you'll find discussing the question of forgiveness, be it on YouTube, Twitter, Reddit, TikTok, Tumblr, what have you, it's all indecisive. In my opinion, I think, and maybe.
Even after you imagine what happened, you still don't know if that's what really happened.
I disagree.
At this point, I wouldn't even have cared if they didn't forgive Sunny. I just wanted answers.
But is it really that hard to figure out? Well, I'll spell it out for you. Are Sunny and Basil forgiven at the end of OMORI? Yes. They are. Definitively 100%. Yes. Despite what many fans will tell you, this is not ambiguous. Though, this is also something that should be extremely obvious, and what many fans should already understand if they have played the game. And yet, people still debate about it, persistently, and act as if this apparently isn't so concrete, that we supposedly can't understand what the creator of the game, OMOCAT, intended. But spoilers, we do.
Okay. No one can get into OMOCAT's head and say what will actually be canon.
You underestimate my power!
Much of this blame for the misinterpretation of the game can be placed upon the fandom itself, which is overtly prone to substituting headcanons in place of actual information from the source material.
We made it up.
So cherish your headcanons while you still can, because you can't outrun me. The lack of ambiguity is something that I must stress, for this video is not merely an opinion piece, as I can guarantee without a shadow of a doubt that this will be the most complete, comprehensive, and pedantic analysis of OMORI's ending to date. Everything I say will be backed up by the game itself, supporting material, or statements made by OMOCAT, though nothing I present here will be an argument inherently unique to me. Yet it would be unwise of me not to throw out a disclaimer first, in that this video only pertains to the canon of the game. By all means, if you're making a fan mod, fan animation, fan fiction, what have you, about OMORI's ending, then interpret it however you like. It's your story at that point. And additionally, this is all at the mercy of OMOCAT, as if she decides to retroactively change the story in some way, then this video will likely be out of date. And as a final note, this video will largely focus on Sunny, given that he is the main protagonist and the game is channeled through his perspective. But everything I say applies to Basil as well, and I will bring him up explicitly when he is relevant to the discussion. This video will be organized into several chapters, which are detailed here. For the most part, I wish to focus on two keen angles of analysis. Firstly, and most importantly, is the narrative of the game, specifically how forgiveness must occur as per the narrative. Secondly, by analyzing the game's supporting cast of Kel, Aubrey, and Hero, concluding how forgiveness not only makes sense for each character individually, but also needs to happen for their characters to remain consistent. Whilst doing this, I will reveal common counter-arguments I hear pertaining to this topic, which shall be represented by the OMOCAT plush right here.
Buy my merch now.
Without any further interruption, we can begin, and please do enjoy. Actually, hold on, I need to discuss something else first, as this comes up all the time whenever this topic is debated upon, that being realism. Think of it like this. Let's say you, in real life, with the assistance of an accomplice are, shall we say, responsible for the early expiration date of a certain loved one. Your friends are devastated, but instead of telling them the truth of what actually happened, you instead lie and make up a story that's even worse, thus absolving you and your accomplice from the blame. Then you don't talk to them for 4 years, until you suddenly return, only for you to spontaneously confess, and then move away permanently. Now do you, in this situation, imagine yourself being forgiven for this?
Oh, everything you just said was insane.
This is the angle I see a lot of people take, that Sunny and Basil being forgiven, or being forgiven quickly, is unrealistic. Notwithstanding the fact that realism tends to be loosely defined, but you want to know what?
I agree.
However,
3. The autopsy. Assuming this takes place in America, nearly all states require an autopsy when a person...
oh dear. Here's the thing. OMORI isn't realistic.
I'll give you this strawberry if you keep it a secret, okay?
I don't say that as a critique or even as an excuse, but rather as an acknowledgement. I believe it is a testament to OMORI's writing that it is so good that people amazingly forget this fact. To analyze fictional stories as if they were realistic is generally a poor outlook. Fictional stories contain narrative structure. Real life doesn't. Additionally, fictional stories are told by characters and not real people. At the end of the day, a character's purpose is to fulfill said narrative, whether it be through a major or minor role. When analyzing fictional characters, you must consider that narrative, as they don't exist in a vacuum. Don't let OMORI's suburban setting fool you. To think that it strictly obeys the laws of reality is a fundamental misunderstanding of what OMORI truly is. To better understand OMORI, it helps if you've played the Mother series before. OMORI has many influences, but Mother is by far the most prominent among them, and this is especially apparent if you look at earlier builds of the game. Even tiny things, such as the character sprites, map design, and battle UI are, or were at some point in development, borrowed from Mother. This is not me speculating, OMOCAT has mentioned Mother's importance on several different occasions. The Mother trilogy, but especially Mother 3, are all powerful games in their own right, thematically speaking. They tell mature and captivating stories, but they're all wrapped in a goofy and lighthearted exterior.
I look at this monkey.
In Mother 2, for instance, better known as Earthbound, you'll spend the whole game fighting wacky enemies in a bizarre world, whereas the final boss is this. It just so happens that OMORI leans a little more on the mature side of things, but that goofy exterior is very much still there, and it can't be ignored. Now, that's not to suggest a realistic story wasn't considered. OMOCAT mentions that several creative decisions had to be made in order to make the story more believable. In her own words,
the final plot was chosen because it could be a believable circumstance. It makes the story more haunting. There's a thought of, this could have really happened. This could have happened to me.
Could you speak faster?
But this must be taken into context. OMORI's story is divided between 3 main worlds. The first is a dream world where anything can happen, the second is a nightmare world filled with subconscious thoughts, and the last is a grounded world, which is more concurrent with what you'd expect from reality. But don't take that too literally, it's still goofy and lighthearted.
Rules are set in each world, so when the game breaks its barriers, those moments become more potent. A wise sage once told me, feels before reals.
If that's confusing, then let me spell it out for you. OMORI is only as realistic insofar as it wants to be. It's a video game.
A video game!
Don't let that fact slip away from you. Above all else, fictional stories are meant to be entertaining, and OMORI can and will exaggerate what would be expected from reality to achieve a story's desired effect. If you're still under the misconception that OMORI is a realistic game, I propose the following quiz. 1. Why can a player barge into people's houses unprompted and then proceed to locate their TV remotes, rate their beds, and spy on their fridge contents? I'm pretty sure that's breaking at least a few laws. 2. How on earth does Sunny overcome 4 years worth of trauma in a mere 3 days?
really dazed.
3. How can you fight your entire neighborhood and come up unfazed thanks to an unlimited supply of band-aids? 4. Does it make sense to challenge your entire town to a pseudo-Pokemon battle? 5. There exist real-world items such as the seashell necklace and chimera keychain which will legitimately make you stronger in battle. How? These are just trinkets. I expect detailed answers on my desk tomorrow morning. Clearly this is getting a bit ridiculous. Taken to its logical conclusion, you start to question everything about the game. Does it make sense for Sunny and Basil to cover up the incident in the way that they did, realistically speaking? Maybe not, but to that I ask, why should it? Remember, fictional stories are meant to be entertaining. Can you imagine how boring the game would be if everything was realistic to a T? This is a common pitfall I see people fall into, and it's hilarious to see people overanalyze the game from a realistic angle. And as a side note, the game's so-called plot holes that some people occasionally bring up fall apart when you take this perspective. I actually find it to be a very wise decision on OMOCAT's part to prioritize dramatic storytelling, instead of bloating the story with needless explanations which would be parasitic to the plot and overall pacing. Here's another piece of OMORI trivia for you. Did you know that according to a 2021 OMOCAT interview, she admitted that OMORI was not made with the consultation of professional psychologists, nor was talking about depression and anxiety ever intended to be the main point of the game. So if a TikTok short informed you that OMORI is a super realistic game about mental illness, I'm so sorry. And if you're still insistent that OMORI should be judged from a realistic angle simply because it contains a grounded world, do you want to guess what you're actually doing for most of the game? Enduring a Reddit atheist monologue, working minimum wage labor, fighting wasps for some reason, attacking a mentally unstable space pirate, losing all your money gambling in an underwater casino, getting swallowed by a whale, getting by no less than 10 rare bears, having yourself pummeled by a Kool-Aid parody. That's OMORI. That's what most of the game is like. That is the rule, not the exception. Think of OMORI much less of this, and much more of this. I understand that this must sound unnecessarily pedantic, but it's all to nail in the following point. Fictional stories should be analyzed from the contents of their writing, and not on their realistic plausibility. OMORI should not be treated as an exception to this.
I've seen people say like, oh, maybe, they all forgave him in the end and, everything is all good and all. But then you see people with a sort of a realist outlook on life.
I can't help but think that much of his confusion stems from the fact that many people want OMORI to be realistic. They cherish the story and relate to its message. They project themselves onto the game's characters and see themselves in them. They want the story to have a real, meaningful impact on their lives. And that's fine. But OMORI doesn't need to be realistic for this to happen. So, no, Sunny and Basil being forgiven, or being forgiven quickly, is not unrealistic. The only factor that you should consider, and something that OMOCAT mentions plenty, is the game's narrative. That's how its characters are written, through the narrative. So, what is OMORI's narrative? Allow me to ask you a question. What is OMORI about?
That's a complicated question.
OMORI is a thematically rich game. That's by design, and accordingly, there exists a wide variety of correct extrapolations as to its meaning. After all, why do you think there are so many video essays about OMORI, this one included? To answer this question, it's best to first look at what OMOCAT has said about the game's meaning. So, according to the creator of the game, what is OMORI about? Hope. That's because, according to OMOCAT, that's what the Mother series is about. Quote, after OMORI, I understand why I love Mother a bit better now. For me, Mother is a story about hope. It's about finding the willpower to do something impossible, overcoming grief and pain, and the unwavering strength of friendship. Perhaps the genres of the games are different, but OMORI's about that too. Unquote. Remember how I said OMORI first and foremost pays tribute to the Mother series? Additionally, in the brochure for OMORI's 2022 collaboration with Gallery Nucleus, yes, I really looked that far into this, OMOCAT echoes the same sentiment, but OMORI is a game about hope. Okay, that's nice, but hope of what exactly? Well, to put it simply, the hope of a better life. The hope that things may go back to the way they used to be. The hope to make new memories. OMORI serves the emotional journey of the protagonist, that's me quoting OMOCAT directly. The protagonist of the story, Sunny, starts off in an awful state, doomed to continuously reminisce about the bond he once had with his friends. Above all else, OMORI fixates on this, the bond that this group shares. The only way to achieve the good ending, and yes, it is called the good ending in both the official walkthrough and achievements, is to finally reconcile with what has happened. Sunny's friends have changed and grown distant, but they all eventually reconnect. In addition to overcoming his own fears, Sunny recalls all the good memories he's had with his friends. Though he's moving away, it is not the end of their relationship. The most symbolic moment of the game reflecting on this fact is when Basil entrusts Sunny with the group's photo album. It's a reminder that the memories he's had with his friends and the connections he's built will always remain. Furthermore, I must stress that the game strictly and consistently portrays Sunny's emotional journey as positive. As the player will read towards the end of the game, life gets better and you can be the one to make that happen. Just because you've done something bad doesn't make you bad. Let's make some new memories, okay? Needless to say, the game is pushing a positive memo. Even the minute details of the game parrot this very same point, such as the symbol of faraway town representing the gateway to a better life, the seashell necklace mentioned earlier, and even the lyrics of the game's closing song, Good Morning, stressing the importance of moving on from all the guilt Sunny has faced. I'll end my spiel about hope at that, and that was an extremely basic takedown of the game's main theme. I don't wish to spend too much time on this because I'm hoping what I just said shouldn't have been news to anyone. But I bring this up to address the following point, that OMORI is unambiguously an uplifting story. There exists a strange tendency within the fandom to label OMORI as the saddest game ever made, one that supposedly bestows depression upon anyone who plays it. Well, I'm sorry to say this, but OMORI is not a sad game at all.
How are you all coping with the post-OMORI depression?
That's not real.
Yes, it is a powerful emotional story, one which deals with serious topics, and a tear-jerking story at that, but it is a story with an overwhelmingly positive message behind it. Regardless of how you feel about the game, that much is indisputable. And accordingly so, because OMORI's ending, following the narrative, is likewise uplifting. Considering how much the game strictly portrays Sunny's journey as a positive one, then the decision Sunny makes to reach this ending, including telling the truth, is the correct choice. You don't get the same positive encouragement across any of the other endings. Hopefully, I shouldn't need to extrapolate that plunging yourself off a hospital rooftop or abandoning your friend and consequently having the entire game go silent afterwards runs contradictory to the positive theme of the game, and thus are deserving of the epithet, bad ending. Which do you think the game is portraying in a positive light? Forgiveness is guaranteed because OMORI is an uplifting story. An alternative question that's sometimes asked in the same breath as the one contemplated about in this video is whether Sunny and Basil should be forgiven. Do they deserve it? By answering this question, we can determine whether forgiveness even makes sense within the confines of the narrative. And the answer to said question is yes, obviously. You might expect me to hit you with the usual, they were 12 years old and it was an accident, but I don't need to do any of that, because the game does not care what you may think, as it has already made up its mind. It stands to reason that if OMORI is a game about hope, then there must be something to aspire to. Given that this game centers around a group of friends, the culmination of that hope revolves around the rekindling of said group. This, after all, is how the plot of the game primarily plays out, with the group reconnecting and Sunny conquering his own fears in the process. To suggest that Sunny and Basil don't deserve forgiveness is not only needlessly nihilistic, but also blatantly incorrect, at least from a narrative point of view.
From a certain point of view.
If OMORI is about hope, then would it make sense for the protagonist and another main character not to be forgiven in the game's most dramatic and significant reveal? What kind of message would that be? The hope of not being forgiven by your friends? Allow me to make myself very clear. While there are many lessons that can be learned from OMORI's overall narrative, one thing is certain, and it's that the morality of this game is entirely black and white. Sunny and Basil lie to friends equals bad. Confess truth equals good. Friend group tore apart, that bad. Friend group come together, that good. I've referenced this quote already, but I'll say it again as it's perhaps my favorite in the entire game. Just because you've done something bad doesn't make you bad. It's so simple a child could understand it. Well, maybe not, as most of OMORI's audience is juvenile. Regardless, if the game comes off to you as a bit preachy with its emphasis on friendship, that's because it is. At no point are Sunny and Basil ever portrayed to be quote-unquote bad people, as that's simply a label given to them by some within the fandom. Hate Basil all you'd like, but as far as the game is concerned, Basil isn't evil. The game does use the word evil though, and that's how it describes Sunny's tendency to press the truth. It does this not once, but twice. Again, the game is quite black and white when it comes to this. While it's tempting to judge the morality of Sunny and Basil's decision, especially if you can't find it within yourself to forgive them, this is the wrong approach. Think about instead why the game was written this way.
Yes, but it just seems too heartless.
We play from Sunny's perspective for a reason. We are meant to sympathize with him, and you can give him whatever name you like. Even if you personally can't forgive Sunny or Basil, that doesn't change the fact that the game is told in such a way that these characters ask for sympathy from the player. The game's justification behind Sunny and Basil deserving forgiveness is the same justification as to why the main group comes back together in the first place. It's simply what needs to happen to fulfill this hopeful message that this game is pushing. Forgiveness is guaranteed because OMORI implies that it is deserved. In addition to hope, there's another angle of analysis that is relevant for proving this video's thesis. Trust. When exploring the Lost Library, you can read about Sunny's real childhood memories. Recalling his memory at the beach, the following excerpt is notable. He is happy, very, very happy, and he makes a vow to himself that, no matter what, he will remember this moment forever. But given that this memory exists in the Lost Library, keyword being lost, this vow was not upheld. So why not? Well, it should be obvious, but it's because that life Sunny remembers simply doesn't exist anymore, and it's all due to one single mistake. At its core, the mistake Sunny and Basil made, and what serves as a catalyst for the game's whole plot, is not Mari's tango with the stairs. That was an accident. Rather, it was their refusal to trust their friends. Instead of owing to their mistakes, they lied about it. After all, this is a mistake they shared together. Given that OMORI is about hope, what is the opposite of that? Despair, and that's the word that best describes Sunny and Basil's state for most of the game. Initially, serious doubt is shed if the friend group can ever recover from what has happened. Hero became depressed. Aubrey felt betrayed, and Kel was really the only one taking initiative. This doubt manifests itself in Sunny's own mind. As Stranger explains, "My problems, my hopes, my dreams, you knew them all. So if you're still there, please let my words reach you one more time. Our friends who have suffered because of us, can we still call them friends?" And yet, there is still hope that what has happened can ultimately be overcome, with Basil stating, "Flipping through this album, you can still see the good times. Maybe one day, things can go back to the way they were before." Of course, Sunny and Basil were not the only ones who made the mistake of not trusting their friends. The entire group made that mistake. Indeed, Mari is gone forever, but the relationship that this group once had can be repaired. Slowly but surely as each day progresses, the group comes back together. Aubrey apologizes for all the terrible things that she's done and wishes to make amends. Kel admits to his own ignorance, and Hero takes accountability for abandoning everyone else. As he so elegantly puts it, "Last time we all made a mistake of leaving each other when we needed each other the most. This time, we'll stay together." Therefore, the resolution of Sunny and Basil's characters is their realization that they must correct their mistake. Just as their friends now trust them, this time, they'll trust them back. As Basil himself explains, "All this pain we've been feeling, the guilt in our hearts, even if you try to bottle it all up, it all comes out somehow. I want to say that everything will be okay, that we have no choice but to carry on. But that's up to you. Aubrey, Kel, and Hero are good friends. You have to trust that they'll forgive us." It's hard to truly believe that, but the photos in our album, they're not just photos. They're real memories, our memories. It's proof of our friendship. Hold those pictures close, and remember what you want to protect. Even with all this encouragement, it's not enough. Sunny must still conquer his own despair, as during the final boss of the game, said despair will rear its ugly head once more. Your friends will never forgive you. They'll abandon you like you did them, and that's what you deserve. Your friends are wrong about you. The person they love isn't you at all. You let them believe in a lie to protect yourself. You're nothing but a liar. And when they see the truth, they'll hate you as much as you hate yourself. If they know the truth, you'll never be able to regain their trust. No matter what you do, it'll be hopeless."
Every word of what you just said was wrong.
The game isn't even pretending to be subtle here. And in case you're confused as who the bad guy is supposed to be, look no further than the corrupted version of yourself, doused in red and black, flanked by hideous effigies of your loved ones, and all complete with distorted music. Now, answer me this. Was everything you just said correct? When Omori tells Sunny to commit a low tier god reference, is that what we should actually do? Or instead, do we take the obvious narrative implication that trusting your friends is indeed the correct action, and these are all lies which Sunny must overcome? It's almost as if the game uses that very same word. As a matter of fact, should you conceal the truth by taking the Omori route, that beach memory in the Lost Library, along with all the other memories, will be scribbled out. Furthermore, if you collect the photo album on 3 days left and then proceed to do the Omori route anyway, the photos will be scribbled too. It's yet another sign that should Sunny be unable to trust his friends, he will succumb to his own repressive tendencies, which the game always portrays as a bad outcome. Because when strangers scold Sunny during the Omori route, he is absolutely right. So you've chosen to live that way. I wonder, can you really call that living? However, should the player guide Sunny out of said repressive tendencies, then the importance of trust becomes abundantly clear. Unlike last time, Sunny will trust his friends with the truth. Likewise, Basil too can finally move on from his life of fear and guilt. Forgiveness is guaranteed because Sunny trusts that his friends will forgive him and Basil. Omori's story follows a found family trope in fiction, whereby a group of unrelated friends care for each other like that of a healthy biological family. Time and time again we are shown that this group of friends love one another, and hence, friendship itself is one of the many important motifs of the game. As such, it's not a stretch of the imagination to think that since Sunny and Basil love their found family, they would also want to be forgiven by them as well. Yet disturbingly, this fact seems to be lost among many.
The whole point was for him to forgive
They may
himself.
not be able to
It
stay
doesn't
friends
matter
with
what
Sunny,
your friends think
that's
of
life.
the truth.
I don't think Sunny has fully forgiven himself.
It doesn't really matter
after
if
the
Sunny's
end
friends
either.
forgive him or not.
Forgiving yourself is more important than making others forgive you.
The game never actually shows the group's reaction to the truth. Taking accountability doesn't guarantee forgiveness. It's about accepting one's own faults, whether or not others decide to be forgiven.
No. Sunny and Basil want to be forgiven, and it does matter. This is undoubtedly the most pervasive myth across the entire fandom. Yes, a significant aspect of Omori's story is about forgiving oneself. That much is true. And the dialogue held with Mari towards the end of the game makes this explicitly clear. We know that Sunny hates himself and is ridden with guilt, which is especially evident in Blackspace. For the most part, Sunny's torment is entirely self-inflicted. The guilt he feels is a burden he has cast upon himself, and his initial lack of faith in his friends is dictated by his own self-loathing. If he can't forgive himself, how could he think that his friends would forgive him? Considering the not-so-subtle symbolism of Sunny hugging Omori, that is to say, himself, in the good ending, Sunny needs to forgive himself to move on from his past. However, this does not dismiss the importance of Sunny and Basil's friends. If you turn your attention all the way to the game's Steam page, the description reads as follows. Explore a strange world full of colorful friends and foes. When the time comes, the path you've chosen will determine your fate, and perhaps the fate of others as well. This may be the first impression many players have of the game, it sure was mine, and that last part is especially important. Yes, the game is told through the perspective of but one character, but it is precisely that fact which makes the decisions of the player so important. This whole game, all of it, from your first moments in Headspace to the final cutscene, focuses on Sunny's, and by extent Basil's, bond with their friends. The bond that this group shares. Remember that from earlier? Sunny dreams about his friends, happily content to go on whimsical adventures with them. All his happy memories fixate on them. In the Lost Library, we get to read how happy he was with them. And in Memory Lane, how much he cherishes being with them. Over and over, you reminisce and cherish. Cherish. That's the name of Sunny's ultimate move during the final boss fight. It contains the following description. Heal your wounds and come back stronger. It's easy to infer that the scathing words Omori tells Sunny are Sunny's own thoughts, now verbally manifested, and when using the Cherish skill, Sunny instead receives words of encouragement. But they're not his own. They're all from his friends. They're all the things we've said previously to him within the game. Friends. Friends are supposed to be there for each other. I hope you can find some peace, or, some happiness. Last time we made the mistake of leaving each other when we needed each other the most. This time, we'll stay together. Maybe one day, things can go back to the way they were before. You'll forgive yourself, won't you, Sunny? The only reason why Sunny can forgive himself at all is due to his connection with his friends. Just prior to this, in what I'd argue to be the most thematically significant moment in the entire game, we get a little pep talk from our main cast. We witness right before our eyes as Sunny's perception of his friends matches the reality he's now in. Everything they tell the player reinforces what the game has been leading up to. That his friends love him and trust him, and that Sunny needs to reciprocate those same feelings of trust. Keep us in your thoughts. We'll be cheering you on. And we really hope this isn't goodbye. Again, in memory lane, Sunny recalls his love for his friends. You remembered Basil's smile as he was about to blow out his birthday candles. But you also remembered, as Basil made his wish, you made one too. At that time, you wished for everyone to be happy. And perhaps the epitome of all of this is the violin itself, second only to the photo album and its importance as a plot device and Sunny's literal instrument against OMORI. It serves as a microcosm of the game's entire plot. Just like Sunny betrayed his friends by not initially telling them the truth, Sunny likewise broke his violin. The same violin which his friends had worked so hard to give him. And yet, through reconnecting with his past that he had so long suppressed, the violin mends itself. With each memory recalled, it grows stronger and stronger, now serving as Sunny's ultimate weapon. And when the player reaches the last memory in memory lane, the following prompt is read. The anxious feeling in your heart as you play the first note on your new violin. That it scared you, but you didn't mind, because they believed in you. And no matter what, you didn't want to disappoint them, because they were your friends. Throughout memory lane, Sunny remembers. He remembers the bond that he has built. It has always been about the bond that they share. How much Sunny regrets abandoning his friends, how much he will miss them, how much he loves them. And it's not just that. He retrieves Basil's photo album, he saves Basil at the lake, he saves Basil at his house, he spends his last days in town with Kel, he helps Kel with his itineraries, he confides with Hero and Aubrey, he visits Mari with everyone, he helps Mincy, Chris, Joy, Brent, Artis, Ref Guy, Jesse, the Hooligans, and so many others throughout the game. Was he all doing this for himself, and himself only?
The characters wouldn't forgive Sunny, at least not easily. They would probably take another 4 years, but forgiving yourself is something entirely
wrong!
OMORI is not about Sunny partaking in his painful journey solo. It has never been. The connections he has are what drive him forward, evident by the fact that the game's main plot doesn't even start if you don't open the door to Kel. His friends are here to support him, and in the cases where he chooses not to recognize this fact, then, and only then, does he act selfish once again. Another interesting factoid is how the word protect is used to describe how Sunny feels about his friends. When Stranger says the following in black space, with great power comes great burden for yourself and for the people closest to you. Who are you protecting? And is it worth it? It mirrors dialogue seen later in the game, which I've already gone over. Hold those pictures close and remember what you want to protect. Protect. With all this in mind, I want you to situate yourself beside Omacat and ask, why? Why bother with this whole spiel about putting faith in his friends, believing in them, and trusting them? I'll tell you why. It's because when Sunny tells the truth to his friends, it's because he loves them and he believes that they deserve to know it. But likewise, he also thoroughly expects, with every fiber of his being, that he will be forgiven. Everything will go back to the way it was before.
OMORI focuses on Sunny's journey to being forgiven, not Basil's.
So this finally brings me to Basil, for he desires forgiveness too. He is the most significant character to the overarching plot besides Sunny himself, and yet, people still forget how much of the narrative, including the emphasis on forgiveness, is told through him or within the context of him. After all, though Sunny is moving away, Basil is not. But just like Sunny, he will be forgiven as well. Lest we forget that most of the faraway town portions of the game focus on helping Basil in some manner. The reason why everyone sleeps at his house is to serve as a reminder that they're here for him. But what does Basil think? Look no further than the photo album itself, the embodiment of the group's friendship and Basil's creation. It's brought to the player's attention very early in the game, and its significance is not lost upon its creator. It's hard to remember now, but I think, at the time, I took photos of what I was most afraid to lose. This echoes a similar sentiment to what he shares during Sunny's memory of his birthday. A wish? But what should I wish for? I have everything I could want right here. Do not underestimate the importance of the photo album. There is a reason why it evolves throughout the game, as it's meant to display the real memories of the main group, and Polaroids appear commonly throughout the game. Unlike Sunny, who has the comparative luxury of being deluded in his own dreams, Basil has lived in a state of constant fear and loneliness.
Basil is deeply caring and thoughtful, especially when it comes to his friends, but his loneliness and insecurity makes him dependent on others, sometimes dangerously so. He feels very deep emotions for those he cares about, and because of this, they can sometimes put him in a situation where he will unintentionally hurt others and himself.
His loneliness is so extreme that the mere thought of Sunny abandoning him twice drives him over the edge, and this is something he makes very explicit on numerous occasions. Basil's thoughts about his friends are again made clear, ironically, in the OMORI route. After rescuing him, he'll tell his friends the following. Before I met you all, I only knew what it was like to be alone. But you've all taught me so much, how to care for others, and how to care for myself too. I'm so grateful to have friends like you. I'll cherish you all forever. Cherish, huh? Hopefully, I've illuminated the fact that Basil is no different than Sunny when it comes to his perception of his friends. Actually, the whole group feels this way. They all love each other. It was their lack of trust in each other that led to their disconnect and shared misery. And yet, OMORI tells us that ultimately, their care for each other will triumph. If Basil were not forgiven, then all the importance he receives, especially when discussing the memories of the photo album and how the group still cares for him, would be null. And of course, the same goes for Sunny too. Forgiveness is guaranteed because Sunny and Basil want to be forgiven. Here's an argument that some of you may bring up.
Sunny's friends don't know that him and Basil lied about Mari. All the encouragement their friends give is under the assumption that Sunny and Basil weren't responsible for Mari's passing and the cover-up.
This is fundamentally wrong from a narrative perspective. If this truly were the case, then why all the talk about trust? Are the words of encouragement Sunny recalls simply lies? Ask yourself, why did Omocat choose to include this dialogue in the first place? Don't look simply at the trees, look at the whole forest. A rift formed between this group of friends in the past. They have since come back together, and considering what I've already discussed, it is painfully evident that the bond that this group shares is unbelievably strong. Now, a rift threatens to break them apart once more, so this time, do you think they will stick together once and for all? The game doesn't care what you think, of course, because the answer is yes. What kind of idiotic message would OMORI be trying to tell if the answer was no? Yes, Sunny's friends do not know, because that is the point. It is for Sunny to understand how rotten his own ideas are, how his lack of faith and his twisted self-imposed lies are utterly illogical. He must tell them the truth, for he knows that he will be forgiven. Adding onto that line of reasoning, the astute among you may have realized the following.
Headspace serves as an idealized representation of Sunny's friends. It can't be used as an accurate source of what they think.
Or, alternatively,
Sunny simply imagines that his friends will forgive him.
This is an extremely common argument, and intuitively, it does make sense. However, intuition does not mean correct, as this stems from a misunderstanding of how OMORI's story is primarily told. OMORI is a story told through dreams, a world of imagination, and it's been like that since OMORI's birth in 2011. Because of that, most of this game is spent within Sunny's mind. That's significant, and it'd be irresponsible to dismiss it as simply filler, because it's not. Consider from a narrative perspective, what is the point of Headspace? An idealized reality? Close, but not quite. Luckily for us, Omocat provides us with the answer.
Its purpose is to illustrate the protagonist's ideal relationship with his childhood friends.
When Omocat says this, she is not saying that the relationships witnessed in Headspace are lies per se. Headspace is not idealized in the sense that there are no rules in how these characters are portrayed. Rather, it is Sunny's childhood that is being idealized. Ergo, she also says this.
Headspace is not exactly surreal, but more so a world viewed through the eyes of a child.
And this too.
Without Headspace's goofy but definable scenarios, it would be much harder to visualize the protagonist's childhood relationships with his friends.
Visualizing is the key word here, because you want to know what might have happened which made Sunny's childhood less than ideal? disregarding that, if you played the game and thought to yourself that Sunny's childhood seemed to be perfect, what with all his friends, that's the point. It's not supposed to be an average or even realistic childhood. OMORI's characters were created around this principle as to highlight how damaging the breakup was, and OMOCAT admits this in the art book. That's where Headspace comes in, serving to recreate that lost, perfect childhood. Above anything else, Sunny's Headspace friends are indicative of how they used to be. They are frozen in time, whereas in the real-life faraway town, we get to see how they've changed. It's no accident that we get to see the photo album in Headspace first. It shows the very real and peaceful childhood Sunny once had compared to the friends he scarcely recognizes now. Of course, there are some discrepancies to highlight the differences between these two worlds, but that's not the point. In reality, Sunny and his friends may not have fought a Mad Duchess, climbed to another world, or gone digging in a food pyramid, but the connection he has with his friends is very real. Ergo, the White Egglet Orchid. My thoughts will follow you into your dreams. This line is most closely associated with Mari, who will encourage Sunny along the true route. However, it can also be applied to Basil as well. This is best exemplified by Stranger, who appears in Sunny's dreams, yes, but represents a significant aspect of Sunny and Basil's relationship, and ultimately guides Sunny not only to the truth, but to the real Basil as well. It's no coincidence that Basil asks Sunny in his dreams to face the truth with him, and the real Basil likewise wants Sunny to stay by his side. Therefore, when Sunny's friends encourage him at the end of the game, it's because, and brace yourselves for this, it's what they would actually say. They're characterized here the same way they've always been characterized, as being loving and supportive. The truth, my friends, is right here. For so long, Sunny has resorted to imagining the friends of his past as a means of escapism, the childhood that he lost. As the game progresses, Kel, Hero, and Aubrey all express how much they care for Sunny, and Basil as well, and from Sunny's journey, his own doubts and self-imposed lies begin to crumble right before him. He realizes that he is not alone, that he is loved, that there is a future for him, and that he will be forgiven.
Just before the final boss fight with OMORI, the game has Aubrey, Kel, and Hero speak to you about forgiveness and how confessing is a good thing. And while I agree with these sentiments, he's telling himself this. This isn't Nem, this is him.
What? Sunny is not telling himself this. The words he receives are the reflection of the very real bond he has. It is the truth. Is Sunny also telling himself the same words of encouragement he receives in the real world? Friendship is such a common motif in this game that it's overwhelming at times, and said motif is primarily told through Sunny's mind, from his perspective. It's how the game starts, and it's how it ends too. When Sunny begins to conquer his fears, he's supported by his friends whilst doing so, and that never changes throughout the game. To call Sunny and Basil's friends loving would be the understatement of the century. Above all else consider, why did OMOCAT write this into the story? What message is being conveyed?
What's about sending a message?
This is the core of OMORI. It's a story told between mind and reality, and both are equally important. Ultimately, there is no separation between Sunny's friends in Headspace and Sunny's friends in Faraway Town. They're both one and the same, and they tell one uninterrupted narrative. And once Sunny accepts said truth, he finally stops clinging to his past because he knows that there is simply no need to do so anymore, as he recognizes that he will be forgiven, and so too will Basil. Forgiveness is guaranteed because Sunny and Basil's friends are characterized as forgiving them. OMORI is a game which preaches an overwhelmingly positive message. Sunny and Basil's forgiveness being deserved is manifested by said positivity, and it is the service of the game to illustrate how Sunny and Basil must trust their friends to achieve forgiveness, as it is not only something they deeply desire, but it is also something that is congruent with the attitudes of their friends. That's it. That's why Sunny and Basil are forgiven, and it's also why there's absolutely no ambiguity. It doesn't matter how much you want Sunny and Basil to be forgiven, or how much you headcanon it, because that's not a want, it's a need.
The power comes in response to a need, not a desire.
Because if not, then the story would be wrong by its own logic. The game would make no sense. This is what I mean by forgiveness being obvious. There is no ambiguity because there is no other pathway the ending can take as per the narrative.
It's kind of upsetting how the best ending can still involve all of Sunny's friends leaving him after he tells the truth.
No. Now, if you've come to accept my thesis, great. If not, then let's knock down a few more common counter-arguments.
Sunny and Basil are forgiven, but not immediately.
This is perhaps the most common interpretation that I see, and if, God forbid, a sequel is ever made, I could very well see this as being the route chosen. On the surface, this does sound like the most logical interpretation. After all, the game does reference the importance of time when healing wounds, such as in Aubrey's dialogue or even in the Good Morning song. But just how long would it take, may I ask? Hours? Days? Months? Years?
One eternity later.
Does Sunny's friends all have a little group huddle and discuss what to do? It sounds a bit silly, and as a reminder, the entire game takes place within the span of but a few days. Sunny is moving away, and as proven, he desires forgiveness. He won't be satisfied if he doesn't know if he's forgiven. As for Basil, are we expected to believe that he'd once again retreat into loneliness, despite the fact that in doing so, it'd defeat the whole point of the game? Have people forgotten why Basil's friends were at his house to begin with? Basil especially needs his friends more than ever now. Again, it's not that the game's ending would like to be positive, it's that it needs to be.
Dread it, run from it.
Forgiveness
arrives all the same.
Sunny and Basil being forgiven in a quick manner does not contradict the game's narrative in any way. On the contrary, it is perfectly aligned with it. Trust your friends.
Sunny and Basil are forgiven, but the group won't be as close as they were before.
When fighting OMORI, Sunny recalls Basil's hope for the group to be as close as they were before. But he is not alone in this thought. Kel, Aubrey, Hero, all of them, all express their desire to be back together again, just like they once were. It'd be what Mari would have wanted. In lieu of that, OMORI stresses that good things can happen, but only if there exists a will strong enough to make it so. The memory of Mari's passing will never be forgotten, but nor will her influence upon the group. Even on one day left, we get to see the group as close as we've ever been, hanging about, having fun, and looking forward to tomorrow. That hope, and the hope that the game is so desperately trying to push, cannot be impeded. Just as the photo album displays past memories, new memories will be made as well. Symbolically, this is also why Basil entrusts Sunny with the photo album, as he will literally carry the memories of his friends into his new life. Let's make some new memories together, okay?
Sunny and Basil remain friends with everyone, but they are not forgiven.
This I find to be a clever stance, as it understands that forgiveness and friendship are nuanced. It is possible to move on from something, while still withholding forgiveness. And on any other story, this argument might have held water, but not with OMORI. Why else would the game suggest Sunny to trust to be forgiven? Why else would the game demand Sunny to accept the reality of forgiveness? Why else would the game propose to Sunny to believe in his friends? And why else would the game display the group's desire to be back together? The friendship that this group once had, and the one they all wish to reclaim, is not a pathetic, half-baked relationship filled with disgruntled emotions. No, it is the real deal.
It will take a while. Sunny and Basil, along with everyone else, need therapy.
I'm gonna cut you off right there. Look, I get that this game deals with mentally unstable teenagers, and the fandom is likewise comprised of mentally unstable teenagers. But these aren't real people. Don't overthink it.
Death of the author. It doesn't matter what OMOCAT intended.
I actually agree with this one to an extent, as I especially don't find the portrayal of OMORI's characters in the official manga adaptation to be consistent without the game. However, even when disregarding what OMOCAT has said or originally intended, the narrative of the game is not ambiguous, and it is not interpretable. Sunny and Basil must be forgiven for the narrative to make any sense.
Sunny and Basil would be arrested following the truth confession.
I have had enough of
you! After the game's credits, the very last thing you see before you return to the main menu is the stump where Sunny's favorite tree once stood, and where Mari, well, you know. We see Aubrey's pinwheel that was placed earlier, and as the game thanks the player for playing, we now see that flowers have been placed by the stump, with each flower reflecting a member of the main cast assigned by Basil in the beginning of the game. The gladiolus for Aubrey, the sunflower for Basil, the rose for Hero, the cactus for Kel, the tulip for Sunny, and lastly, sitting away from all the others, is the lily of the valley for Mari. I don't suppose the flowers placed themselves, did they? Flowers in general are symbolic throughout the whole game. Remember the white egret orchid? And if you go through the process of obtaining Omori's most painstaking achievement, Universally Loved, you'll get a flower from everyone you've helped. That's because the positivity of this game doesn't just extend to Sunny, Basil, and their friends. It extends to everyone else too. Every character reinforces the game's positive message. Going back to Pinwheels, we even see more of him by the group's secret hideout, each color referencing a respective member of the main cast. The group is healing, and when Sunny and Basil smile at each other at the end of the game, it's been a long time coming. I understand as I go through this video, it may sound as if this is all too good to be true, that Omori's depiction of its themes is so resonating that accepting such a simple conclusion may be a tough pill to swallow. There must be some sort of nuance, or some room for discussion. A simple, unambiguous ending seems to run contrary to what the game suggests, but it doesn't. That's not what Omori is about, yet crucially, it is what a significant portion of the fanbase thinks it is about.
The reality is, we don't know.
Whatever helps you sleep at night, I really don't care.
Remember what I said about headcanons warping fans' perception of the game? After all, the most popular tag in the fanfiction website Archive of Our Own for Omori is angst. More than anything else, the fandom is strongly biased towards the darker and emotional aspects of Omori's story, and while there's nothing inherently wrong with that, you must consider the rest of the story too. I understand it's a bit childish to resort to the argument, replay the game, but I would strongly advise you to do it. I challenge you, get all the achievements, see for yourself how close these friends are, and how their friendship will not be broken again. Fundamentally, what I wish to get across through this video is for you to look at the bigger picture. So much Omori analysis focuses on what Omori is, but rarely ever why Omori is. Why was this included? Why was this written into the story? For what purpose does this serve? With all that I've discussed thus far, I will ask you this. Why does Omori end in the way that it does? Think about it. I'll come back to this question towards the end of this video.
Kel was created in relation to Sunny's personality. Since Sunny is a passive person, needs an energetic individual like Kel to push the story along. He's someone who is always there for you and loves you unconditionally. Even though he can be a little troublesome, you can tell he cares about you and puts others' feelings above his own.
That should speak for itself. Kel, perhaps more than anyone else, is the driving force behind the rekindling of the main group. He, after all, is one responsible for prompting Sunny to go outside and thus causing the events of the story to unfold. Kel's relationship with Sunny is especially important, which Omocat has already explained. There's a reason why he's the first companion you meet prior to reaching their last resort. And in the Omori route, he'll even announce Omori as being his honorary brother, demonstrating how close these two are. And if that wasn't enough of a testament to his bond with Sunny, don't you worry, because I have more. Pertaining to the real world, when compared to everyone else, it is Kel who has coped the best following the breakup of the group, though not without his own fair share of challenges. Compared to his Headspace counterpart, while he is still playful, Kel has matured quite significantly. The best example of this comes from the birthday gift side quest, where Kel is primarily responsible for repairing the relationship between a character named Jesse and his father. His personality truly shines through here, as it simultaneously highlights both his good nature as well as his tendency to be a bit stuck up. Even Hiro compliments him here. Now, does it make sense for Kel to barge into a stranger's house and scold them like this? Maybe not, but as we all know, Omori is the pinnacle of realism. Another example would be his recognition of the pain Sunny goes through. He doesn't judge Sunny for it, rather he comforts him along the way. Speaking of maturity, on 3 days left, he takes the lead for the most part, basically babysitting Sunny for the whole day, and even confiscating Sunny's steak knife. Despite his maturity though, he can be just as stubborn, evident by his numerous clashes with Aubrey. Really? None of my business? We all used to be best friends, but now, this is none of my business? As should be evident, Kel always puts the needs of his friends above his own. Upon witnessing Basil's hardship, the very first thing he does is run off Aubrey's gang, with him then proceeding to retrieve Basil's photo album, where he reminds Basil that despite not interacting with each other for 4 years, we're still friends. I want you to know that, okay? Rather than getting into altercations with Aubrey out of spite, he fights her because she is a threat to Basil, his friend. We just want you to stop messing with Basil. What's your deal with him all of a sudden? You used to be friends. We all used to be. With Aubrey refusing to budge, he eventually laments that the Aubrey he once knew is seemingly gone. You weren't there when she pushed Basil into the lake. I told you, she's different now. The same day Kel says this, Aubrey apologizes, and I kid you not, Kel embraces her immediately. Ergo, Kel's motive throughout the story is to help his friends to be back together with everyone. You and Basil, and everyone here, you were my best friends. Fortunately for him though, that's exactly what happens. Look at all of us back together again. Mari would be so happy for us. But yeah, it's true. I know we'll always be there for each other. Just like I know that Mari is still here with us too. Kel's attitude is consistent throughout the whole game, as even in the OMORI route, Kel will state the following. No matter what happens, we've got each other's backs. We will always be together, like one big, happy family. And let's not forget what he says before the finale. I know we've missed out on each other for the past few years, but it doesn't have to stay that way. Conversely, it's also important not to twist this character into something he isn't. On occasion, I will read the following interpretation, or something close to it.
Kel is judgmental, he'd be hurt, and he wouldn't forgive Sunny and Basil easily.
Part of the fandom seems to be under the impression that Kel was somehow stupid or naive, which is a little strange to me. As a reminder, his personality was tailor-made to complement Sunny's. And even so, as already mentioned, Kel's priority throughout the game was to help his friends, mainly Sunny and Basil. That wouldn't change here, and it was Aubrey who resisted reconciliation, not Kel. I can't help but think that some of the confusion pertaining to this character stems from the absurdly popular belief that Kel represents a form of toxic positivity. Now, to be fair, there is a grain of truth in this. Omocat does mention he's the type of person to suppress his own feelings, and I am in no way attempting to undersell the difficulties he's faced, as he's clearly suffered just like everyone else. But really, if there's anyone who represents toxic positivity, that'd be Basil, not Kel. Kel's positivity is not a farce. His smile is not a facade. Again, there's a reason why Kel is the one who knocks, as opposed to anyone else.
I am the one who knocks.
He genuinely is most positive thinking out of the main cast. Whenever a serious situation is brought up, whether it be arguing with Aubrey or visiting Mari's tombstone, Kel drops the smile. He takes it quite seriously. The game goes to great lengths to show he's been hurt like everyone else, even subtly suggesting that he suffers from not being at the receiving end of his parents' favoritisms, but nonetheless, he still takes initiative. Ergo, the flower assigned to Kel by Basil is the cactus. According to Basil, the cactus is resilient and can survive in seemingly impossible conditions. If nothing else, Kel is awfully persistent. His concern for Sunny is shown throughout the whole game, and mind you, this is the same guy who's tried to call Sunny every week for the past few months. Kel is so important as a matter of fact that he actually has the most spoken dialogue out of any character. If I've learned anything these past few days, it's that friends should be there for each other. In their hour of need, Kel cannot and would not abandon Sunny and Basil. And to be honest, I struggle to comprehend why anyone thinks he'd even hesitate in forgiving them. Because to conclude that he wouldn't forgive Sunny and Basil when he spent the entirety of the game trying to reconnect with them is insane. Yeah, I think we'll always be best friends. That's okay with you too, right?
Aubrey's character comes from my transition from childhood to young adulthood. My parents said as a kid I was very sweet and would always be friendly to strangers, but as a result of negative experiences, I became closed off and quiet. But really, my insides were filled with anger.
This is worth emphasizing, as contrary to how she's often portrayed within the fandom, Aubrey does not lack empathy, nor is she a one-note angsty teenager. If you would like to get a grasp on what Aubrey's character was meant to convey, then it's worth investigating the troubled young adult years that Omocat mentions.
When I was 19, I was told to leave art school because I wasn't good enough.
Aubrey as a character is meant to reflect upon insecurity, specifically the insecurity born from human connections. Imagine yourself a child of an abusive household. You have no friends or siblings, until one day you're spotted in your isolation. You're welcomed into a new family, one with proper role models and friends who love you unconditionally. For the first time in your life, you feel loved and welcomed. Until one day, you're all alone again. Your beloved elder sister figure is gone, and your cherished memories have been desecrated. That feeling, that betrayal, that's Aubrey. It's worth stressing just how much this feeling of betrayal dictates Aubrey's behavior. When confronted by Sunny and Kel about the photo album, she justifies her actions by claiming, "My old friends weren't there for me when I needed them. You and Sunny think you could just barge back into my life and tell me what to do? Don't be so naive." However, Aubrey's behavior is not some act of revenge, as she only decides to fight when pressed about Basil. Otherwise, she prefers to be left alone. On 2 days left, you'll find her at Gino's, and upon interacting with her, she simply ignores you. Why? Why do you keep coming back? I just want you to leave me alone.
She's a troubled individual, but actually quite composed unless you agitate her.
Aubrey's anger, far from being her sole trait, is a traumatic response. It's one born out of a fear of abandonment, one that she's always held. Even after we all became friends, I always assumed you were going to leave me eventually. Though she has involved herself with a new crowd, who are harmless if we're being honest, Aubrey is still trying to protect what little of her old friend she has left. The one who has protected the photo album, the memories of the group, is none other than Aubrey herself. Is that what Basil told you? I'm the one keeping it safe. And despite her tough guy persona, she's not good at hiding how she truly feels. As Kel and Hero put it, respectively, I don't believe you when you say you don't care about us anymore. You have all your new friends now, but you're still hanging out at our old hangout spots. Do I really have to spell it out for you? During all this time, it's pretty obvious that you still cared about us. I mean, just look at the photos in the photo album. There's no trace of any of the black marks you were talking about anywhere. You can see all our faces just fine. I don't suppose they all just cleaned themselves, did they? Whatever reason she may have, the game always portrays Aubrey's treatment of her old friends, particularly Basil, as being wrong. And given that the game's story focuses on bringing the band back together, Aubrey comes to realize that her anger has been forged out of a misunderstanding, and she must make amends. It's a classic redemption story. I felt like everyone abandoned me, and abandoned Mari too, but I couldn't see that everyone was dealing with the pain in their own way. And reinforcing the game's themes of friendship, Aubrey's welcomed back by her old friends, and it's here where we see a sincere side of Aubrey. To Sunny, she says, "Sometimes I think I was the one that should have been there for you. I hope you can find some peace out there, or, you know, some happiness." And to Basil, "I just wanted to say that I'm sorry for the way I've been treating you. Will you please say something? We just want to know that you're okay." In many ways, Aubrey's character serves as a microcosm of the entire story. Her trust with her friends is broken, she acts selfishly, she must then take accountability, and she is, of course, forgiven in the end. Now she must come face to face with her old friends once again. So, how will she act? She will act by staying true to herself, as that's what the flower assigned to Aubrey, the gladiolus, represents. The gladiolus reminds me of Aubrey because she's always true to herself. This is how she's characterized throughout Headspace. She's deeply concerned about Basil's disappearance, she's willing to help strangers in need, like Captain Spaceboy, and she's adamant in pointing out what's right, like against Sweetheart. And this is reinforced towards the end of the game. Aubrey has always acted true to her feelings. Even though she has trouble admitting how much she cares, her actions have shown otherwise. She has been a little hard to understand, but you can trust that she'll always try her best to do the right thing. To forgive Sunny and Basil is the right thing to do, as proven by the game's narrative. Aubrey is a character showcasing the value of human connections, and that's what OMORI showcases too. So, what good would that showcase be if she were to end the game being a hypocrite, to refuse to understand her friends once again, to act enraged, to recall her words to Sunny, to reject her own apology to Basil? She is someone who has craved the friendship that she has lost, so would she be so ready to throw it all away once again? Would she have learned nothing? As she says herself, no matter how far you push your feelings down, they'll always come back somehow, and what you do with those feelings, that will be your truth. And what are Aubrey's feelings? What is her truth? It's the same as everybody else's, to be back together and happy, just like Mari would have wanted. It's to forgive Sunny and Basil. It's not just about the memories, it's about us. I know that we'll all be friends for a really long time.
Perhaps this line of reasoning might not hold in front of his friends, especially Hero.
Hero, which is definitely the most hardest one.
Poor Hero, doomed to character assassination by the fandom. Hero, he'd be like so angry, right? We know how much you loved Mari and hero tag you. Get it? Memes aside, a significant portion of the fanbase does genuinely believe Hiro would act hostile, or at the very least, would have a hard time forgiving Sunny and Basil.
What is this bullshit?
This interpretation is severely disrespectful towards Hiro, and to fully appreciate why this is the case, it's important to briefly overview how Hiro is depicted throughout the game. Now, because Hiro is far more prevalent in Headspace, and because Headspace showcases a younger and thus less developed version of Hiro, it's worth investigating his portrayal in Headspace first. In Headspace, Hiro is depicted as this nigh-perfect older brother-esque figure. The first impressions you have of his character make this fact abundantly clear. He plays peacekeeper for Aubrey and Kel, and he's the one who prompts the player to join the picnic with Mari and Basil. Alongside Mari, he serves the role of one of the so-called adults of the group. This is not merely a title bestowed upon him, as Hiro is unabashedly the most mature amongst the friend group, even if he's a bit dorky and clumsy at times. In addition to his maturity, Hiro is also incredibly selfless, much like his brother. He is constantly in charge of looking after his friends, as demonstrated by his eagerness to find Basil, and best of all, his relationship with Mr. Jossum. Hiro and his friends get kidnapped and forced to work forever with no pay, and Hiro still took it upon himself to go the extra mile and be his #1 worker, even concluding that Mr. Jossum was, quote, a pretty decent guy. He's so kind, as a matter of fact, that it's often to a fault. Even when being coerced into marrying someone he just met a minute ago, he's not the type of person to say no to anyone, and Kel even admits this much. He's far from violent too, as there's an NPC named Mr. Scarebro who will insult him in the face and ask to be hurt, and Hiro still pulls his punches. Additionally, it should come to nobody's surprise that in battle, Hiro is intended to play a supporting role. Furthering this, the flower Basil assigns Hiro is the rose, albeit no specific rose, for he is so universally loved. And universally loved he is, as pretty much every character in the game seems to like him, to the point where his connections are instrumental in progressing through Headspace. Have you ever noticed the wow ... dialogue associated with Hiro? He's just that good. Of course, Hiro isn't truly flawless, but that does not make his characterization Headspace useless. As mentioned previously, Headspace is to provide contrast on how Sunny's friends have grown up, and how has Hiro changed. In terms of his general personality, he hasn't changed much at all. He's as mature as ever, given that he is the one to finally mend the relationship with Aubrey. Bear in mind, he knows what Aubrey did to Basil, and Kel even laments that she's a lost cause, but he still says the following. It's true that she's changed, but it doesn't change the fact that I still care about her. And even if she doesn't show it, I'm sure Aubrey still cares about me too. That's just the kind of person she is. Hiro is absolutely right here, and if Hiro can have this good of an angle on Aubrey's personality despite not seeing her in 4 years, then I find it hard to believe he'd misunderstand Sunny and Basil. After all, he's not the type of person to dismiss his friends. I just wish Aubrey and Basil could be here too. You know, I hope we'll be able to see Basil before you leave tomorrow, Sunny. Additionally, Hiro takes full responsibility for the discord that has been sowed amongst the friend group. He apologizes to Sunny. I bet it's been pretty hard in this empty house, especially without Mari. I'm sorry I couldn't be there for you more. And he also remarks, what happened while I was gone? Maybe I should have never left. As always, Hiro's kindness shines brightly. On one day left, he'll lay out the following. There have been a lot of things that were unsaid these past few years, and painful memories that we kept to ourselves. But even through all that, I'm relieved that we were still able to become friends again. I'm happy that we're all here, so that we can face this together. He then also tells Basil, we just wanted to let you know that we're here. Let us know if you need anything, okay? Last time we all made the mistake of leaving each other when we needed each other the most. This time, we'll stay together. This is the third time I'm referencing this quote, as it's just that important. And on the topic of friendship, he also speaks to Sunny directly by saying, I just want you to know that even though you're moving away tomorrow, we'll always be friends. He also saved Sunny and Basil's life, which is a slightly consequential detail but I figured I should mention. And even the minor things carry over from Headspace too. He's still good at everything he does, look at those trophies. He's still scared of spiders. He cooks you breakfast and does all your chores. And you'll still get the same wow ... dialogue. If you still don't believe me, here's the game itself confirming everything I just said. Hiro has always been someone you could rely on. He is wise, capable, loving, and always puts others above himself. He is the kind of person that will always make himself available to you, even to a fault. Oh, and if it's any consolation, in the art book, Omocat says verbatim that Hiro is a quote, perfect role model and father figure for Sunny.
Okay, but what about
Shut up. I know what you're about to say. There is something I've neglected to mention, however, and it's the elephant in the room, that being Hiro's grief for Mari. The memory of her loss is so painful that we learn that he's never visited her grave before, and even objects that are related to her, such as her piano, cause him to break down. In an optional though significant scene, Cal tells us that Hiro became extremely depressed for about a year following Mari's death, and even lashed out at Cal. But it's here where so many fans miss the point of this scene, and it's that because Hiro made mistakes, he now has room to grow. Hiro blames himself for what happened to Mari. Cal says this outright. He can't stand his loved ones getting hurt, which is why Hiro's outburst towards Cal never happened again, and why he so quickly apologized. You were still pretty young then, Cal, but I'm the oldest, so I should have known to take care of everyone. Why would he make the same mistake again? Yeah, I promise too. We should all be here for each other. The truth of the matter is, Hiro is not some angsty or misunderstood character as commonly depicted within the fandom. Rather, he's a completely selfless person who thoroughly believes he failed to protect who he had loved so dearly, thinking about that failure every day. But this time will be different. To be honest, Hiro is a very basic character, to the point where I personally call him boring. But can we stop acting like Hiro has no personality or attachment to anyone else beyond his love for Mari? Though, if we must bring Mari into the equation, do you want to know who else would want Hiro to forgive? Why do you think Omocat wrote him like this? What is the point of his dialogue? The selfless and emotionally hurt role model figure, the mature peacemaker, the person who loves his friends and blames himself, the person who would physically lash out and immediately proceed to break all the promises he just made in bold defiance to the entirety of this game's narrative. What?
When will you guys learn that I don't actually use logic when I do these things?
No, that's not Hiro. This is Hiro. Whatever you end up choosing, we will always want what's best for you. For whatever reason, people occasionally bring up other characters into this debate about forgiveness, so I'll now be exercised in a quick lightning round. Do Sunny and Basil forgive each other? Well, when you start the game, the very first thing you see is the following. Don't worry, everything is going to be okay. No matter what happens, promise me that we will always be there for each other. Of course, at the time, this promise was not upheld, but as I've hopefully illustrated by now, the purpose of the game's narrative is to demonstrate the actions taken in rectifying that mistake. So much of this story revolves around Sunny and Basil's relationship specifically. It's the main thing in common between Headspace and Faraway Town, that Basil appears to be in danger, and this relationship is given extra focus in Black Space via Stranger. Sunny and Basil have always been friends, just not in a particularly healthy way following the incident. Basil's dialogue, all of it, apart from being masked by his own delusions, speak of him trying to establish some sort of comfort that he's lost, especially with Sunny. And that's exactly what happens. Everyone becomes friends again, and they promise to be there for each other. When the game repeatedly asks you, do you want to save Basil? It's not a joke. Basil is strongly associated with flowers, and by watering Basil's garden in Headspace, you unlock a post-credits cutscene, which should serve as yet more evidence that contrary to what some people may say, Headspace is quite important. And if these aren't smiles of forgiveness and happiness, I don't know what is. Does OMORI forgive Sunny? Although it can be somewhat confusing, OMORI is not separate from Sunny. They are the same person. The information provided to us by Daddy Longlegs, the branch coral, Stranger, as well as other cryptic NPCs tell us this much. Sunny is the dreamer, and so is OMORI by extension. Even when disregarding that, much of Headspace is metaphorical. It's meant to convey Sunny's mindscape, with even Omocat admitting that the game uses symbolism generously. And since we know Sunny forgives himself, so too does OMORI. The pain of what's lost will always remain, but without a truth to hide or a world to escape to, OMORI is no longer needed. How do I explain this one? Now we enter the meta part of this discussion. For those unaware, in 2022 there's an art exhibition in Alhambra, California featuring the artwork of OMORI by Gallery Nucleus. The gallery featured a bountiful amount of material related to OMORI's development, and a relevant find was discovered nestled in this collage of images, made to poorly resemble the shape of OMORI. For the record, this was also displayed in the subsequent 2024 and 2025 art exhibitions in the never-ending commercialization death spiral of this game. Here, we witness sketches of Kel, Aubrey, and Hero, all bearing a striking resemblance to what's seen in the final cutscene of the game, almost certainly meant to showcase their reactions to the truth. Kel is shocked, Aubrey is heartbroken, and Hero is in disgust. Huh. I guess I was wrong after all. Well, thanks for watching. Just kidding, of course. This is a nothing burger. First things first, these are not the only images likely to pertain to the end of the game. In addition to the 3 already mentioned, there's also these 2, one for Sunny and one for Basil. The drawing of Sunny seems to be congruent with what we see in the final game, whereas Basil, not so much, which already puts a damper on this whole thing. Of course, these were scattered across the collage and very well could be unrelated images. But that brings me to my next point. We know next to nothing about these images. 1, we don't know when they were created. OMORI's development dates all the way back to 2014 and its origin in 2011, that's over a decade ago now. And although many ideas did survive from those early days, many others did not. The game's development was extremely messy and poorly handled, so these images are lacking crucial context. 2, we don't know if these images were ever intended for the game. OMORI's development consisted of sketches. Lots and lots of sketches, and the art exhibition itself is exemplary of this. There are so many in fact, that some were supposedly stolen.
Allegedly.
More importantly, many of these sketches were obviously never intended to be put in the final game. 3, we don't know if these images are actually meant to represent the reaction to Sunny's confession. That's simply an assumption people made, and while I agree it is the most plausible assumption, it is just that at the end of the day, an assumption. But let's forget all of that and say, for the sake of argument, that these images can be trusted, and they are indeed the intended reaction of Sunny's confession. What do these images prove then? Nothing. All this proves is that they'd be shocked to hear it, which is an obvious conclusion to make anyway. Why would they want to hear something so appalling? But, as the narrative of the game tells us, they'd ultimately come to their senses and find it within themselves to retain the promises they made to each other by forgiving Sunny and Basil. Which do you think carries more weight? Some mysterious piece of artwork that, if assumed to be true, which, no joke, advances the plot by about 5 seconds? Or the whole narrative of this 20-hour-long game, which strongly emphasizes how Sunny and Basil must trust their friends, and how this group of friends cannot abandon each other once again. The hope that things will be the way they were before, the desire to make new memories, and how they must be forgiven for the game to make the least bit of sense, as I've already thoroughly outlined. You be the judge.
Wanna look at the size of that's cheating.
If the art exhibition is ultimately worthless, you can and should ask yourself, what was OMORI's ending originally going to be? This is where things get interesting, but please take everything I say in this segment with a pinch of salt, as OMORI's development ranges from the funny to the really funny, and OMOCAT only cares about disclosing development material if she can make a pretty penny off it. The OMORI 2019 build is, well, exactly that, a build of the game data mined hailing back to 2019. The details of this build are quite interesting, so I will leave links in the description for those interested, and a huge thanks to everyone involved in it. While there does exist, I kid you not, a 600-page long document painstakingly describing every difference, we don't care about most of them. So, how about the ending? Well, unfortunately, it's incomplete, but the pieces we do have follow the same path of events as witnessed in the final game. The truth is revealed, Basil is confronted, OMORI is defeated, and Sunny wakes up in the hospital. And while there are some noteworthy omissions to the story, if you read between the lines, you'll notice that the overall narrative behind this build is more or less the same as in the final game. Don't be too surprised by that. The narrative forms the backbone of the story, and it's not something they would have changed this late into development. That means everything I've discussed about OMORI's narrative in this video still applies to this earlier version of the game. Why is this important? Because there exists placeholder text describing how the game ends, and it's even older than the 2019 build. After the player admits the truth, the game ends with one last group photo taken by Basil, which very strongly implies that both Sunny and Basil are forgiven, and forgiven quickly at that. That's my smoking gun. If nothing else in this video has convinced you, then hopefully this will. It's a little strange for the entire narrative to remain the same only to suddenly change the culmination of said narrative, don't you think? Well, that's because it didn't change, as Sunny and Basil are still forgiven, and it's not ambiguous. So why pull the rug from underneath? I'll tell you. Despite what I've shown throughout the video, the fandom does generally accept that Sunny and Basil will be forgiven, but I didn't create this video to prove something most people already know. Rather, it's to prove something far more fundamental. OMORI does not end ambiguously. So much OMORI discussion is built off the assumption that OMORI is open-ended, that we don't know what happens next, and that it's a cliffhanger. This video is as long as it is because I want it to be as thorough as possible, to painstakingly break apart every argument that goes into this assumption, because it's just that, an assumption, and through the media landscape, certain myths that go into that assumption get propagated more than others, like Sunny only needing to forgive himself, or that OMORI is somehow a depressing game. Although these make for good narratives, they're not correct. I've spoken much about Sunny throughout this video, but as far as the game is concerned, there's no such thing as Sunny. It's just you, and it's always been from your perspective. Some of the internal documentation you'll find never even mention the name Sunny. It's always the player, you. You're responsible for the death of the one you loved the most. You're a liar. You've betrayed everyone you loved. You've ruined your life. You're a coward. And most importantly, everything is your fault, and there's no hope for you. So why not just hide all this pain away and forget about it? As you play the game, this pain you've tucked away slowly becomes resurgent. Exploring your imagination, you steadily begin to conquer your fears. You reconnect with friends that you've lost. You rediscover dark truths, and eventually, you make one final decision. That you will cower no longer. You finally realize that there is a future for you, and that you don't have to be alone. This is Sunny's journey, but it's also yours. When the game tells Sunny to trust his friends, and that they believe in him, it's not just talking to Sunny, it's also talking to you. Sunny can only persevere against all the lies spouted by his inner demons when you make the decision for him. So, if Sunny can accept the truth of forgiveness, then why can't you? Earlier, I asked why does OMORI end this way, and well, this is why. And it's also the same reason why Sunny, despite the terrible things that he's done, is always portrayed as being morally in the right. It's because you need to make the same journey as Sunny and come to the same conclusion. The decision to end the game abruptly is one which OMOCAT has gone on record stating to be a thought-out decision, and it's one I hope they stick to. If the ending were shown outright, then it would undermine the choices in order to reach that ending. You may not see what happens next with your eyes, but your heart already knows. I must stress that this hopeful message isn't just what I think. It is indeed the intended meaning behind OMORI as per OMOCAT, as not only does OMORI end unambiguously, but I would also make the claim that it was never intended to be ambiguous in the first place. If that sounds shocking to you, then perhaps consider why OMOCAT made OMORI. In making this video, something that really stuck out to me is just how much OMOCAT loves the Mother series. I always knew that OMORI was inspired by Mother, but I hadn't fully grasped just how much Mother means to her. So much of OMOCAT's early work is Mother related. You really get the impression of someone who loves these games with all their heart. In many ways, it's how I feel about OMORI too. And if you recall, OMOCAT thinks of Mother as a series about hope. Quote, "My experience creating this game changed my worldview, and consequently the narrative of the game itself. It sounds cheesy, but when I felt stuck in a hopeless situation, OMORI became a game about hope." Unquote. OMORI is a game about a group of friends, made by a group of friends. Quote, "OMORI became a game made where it feels like it was made by one person, yet also made by a group of friends, because that's what it was. The messages and all the emotions put into the game are so true to what I wanted to do and what I think a lot of us here wanted to do, and maybe even exceed what we wanted to do." Unquote. The message OMOCAT intended for OMORI is not shallow nor fake. She means it. Quote, "I need you all to channel that part and really put your all into something you believe in. I believe in this game." Unquote.
Shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll land amongst the stars.
While it's both tempting and amusing to dismiss the assumption of OMORI ending ambiguously using buzzwords such as media literacy or reading comprehension, all the arguments that go into this assumption all have a common origin: a lack of faith.
It ends without showing the reactions because that's not the point of the game. Healing isn't whether...
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Many love this game, so why is it taboo to commit to the game's message? This nihilistic and distorted interpretation of the game's ending that I see so often is not only wrong, but outwardly harmful. It taints the game's beautiful and optimistic message into one where people believe that OMORI is depressing, that the future must be uncertain, and that you can so easily let go of your past. No, have some faith in the hopeful message. Making this video and witnessing all these nihilistic comments, it was honestly quite demoralizing. But there is one exception that truly stuck out to me. Unlike you, Sunny himself has absolutely no doubt in his mind that his friends will forgive him. If you want closure, you have to erase the OMORI that's still somewhere inside of you.
You've done it! That's the right answer!
I couldn't have put it any better myself. On OMORI's first anniversary, OMOCAT promised she'd remember what OMORI meant to her and to hold on to that feeling. Over the past few years though, I've grown a sinking feeling that the authentic artistic intent she once had is slowly slipping away. Maybe in due time, by retcons or what have you, this video will be proven wrong somehow. But that's okay, because that's not the point. For as low-key narcissistic as this video is, I do believe this mindset is something everyone should hold, and not just with OMORI. To have faith in what you love and believe in it, keep those memories close to your heart and make them a part of you. So, to close this off, I'll leave you with a quote from the final pages of the official OMORI art book, which, along with other quotes, thank you for playing the game. Thank you for everything. This experience taught me to find worth in myself, but also that I don't have to do everything alone. I cherish it for the rest of my life. Let's look forward to tomorrow. And next to it, signed by OMOCAT, is one of the very few illustrations we have of Sunny smiling. Thanks for watching.
Steadily, my thoughts take hold of me. It's hard to stay awake or fall asleep. Memories of the past, both the good and bad, overwhelm me. There's so much I wish I could take back. Sometimes I think maybe it's too